MSW Media.
So yeah, now it's clean up on aisle 45 time. And for a long while yet, it is going to be clean up on aisle 45.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Clean Up on Aisle 45. It is Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. This is week 269. I'm Allison Gill.
Happy day after St. Patrick's Day. What's up, AG? It's Harry Dunn here. All right, so I won't get into it because we got a lot to cover today. And today we're going to talk about the DHS shutdown and how airline CEOs are now pressuring Congress to fund the agency. I know y'all have been, I don't know if y'all have been traveling, but airports have been an absolute mess. Plus, Democrats in Congress are investigating the money donated to Donald Trump's Lie-brary.
Yeah, and there's a question mark at the end of that because library?
Yeah, that's library? Wait, what?
Donald Trump's building a what? It's just 10,000 copies of Art of the Deal in the library.
Exactly.
Also, more Congress stuff. It's going to be all Congress today, which is cool because you're running for Congress.
Absolutely.
But Dick Durbin and Jamie Raskin are going to ask the Department of Justice to investigate Kristi Noem for perjury. And John Thune, he's the Senate Majority Leader. He's set to kick off debate on the SAVE Act, which will intentionally disenfranchise millions of likely Democratic voters while also targeting the trans community.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to hang that on the bill to get people to vote for it, and also to, go after our trans friends. But what does that have to do with voting other than, I think in Kansas, when they're taking away people's driver's licenses, that's a voter ID state. So they're going to try to disenfranchise as many people as they can while also attacking their demagogue for, this culture war that they're fighting.
Yeah.
But first, we do have some new patrons to thank. Everybody, if you want to become a patron, support independent media, support Harry and me, you can do that at patreon.com/aisle45pod, AISLE45POD. We will give you a shout out on the air. You can call yourself whatever you want, which is kind of fun. So our new patrons are Hildy's mom and the glam rock top that isn't going to make any difference. All right, sounds cool. And our Hall of Famers, Mitchell, Greg Crimer, January 20 baby, Greg Robin Smith, a.k.a. Benjamin Franklin Live, Chris McCullough, Christine G. Passion, Mr. Halfspeed, Clover's Tree 73, Kate, just Kate, and Je suis fatigué. Very fatigued, my friend.
Very fatigued.
My French friend. So before we dive into the news, everybody knows Harry's running for Congress, but you just picked up a pretty massive endorsement.
Yeah. My good friend, Nancy Pelosi. In my opinion, the best speaker of all time, the best speaker of the House of all time. I am so thankful for her endorsement. Listen, I understand a lot of people have a lot of opinions about her, but my main thing is she got shit done. Stuff done. Excuse me. We're not on the bonus. She got stuff done for us, for people. She's a staunch supporter for women. And she brings a lot of expertise. And, she stepped down, one from leadership, from being the speaker. And then two, she's not running again. So I think that she doesn't have a problem with being able to pass on power or, knowing when to bow out when it's time to. But just about her, she's just so effective. And the fact that she sees me as somebody who she wants to put her stamp of approval on, it means the world to me because it's kind of validates me. I know that I can get stuff done. I know that I'll be effective. But for somebody of her stature to see that in me, it means a lot to me. And I'm just grateful for her.
That's very cool, my friend. Something else that you can't talk too much about because you were a party to this lawsuit, you and Danny Hodges, Semper Wry, W-R-Y, over on social media, a while ago, have sued the architect of the Capitol, right, to get the January 6th plaque hung. And as we know, in the 4:00 in the morning, which is when they usually do this kind of work, they hung the plaque. I know Tom Tillis fought for this, a senator, inside on the west side of the Capitol in a place that's not open to the public. And the judge in your case put out a request saying, hey, Let me know if your case is moot now, meaning done, over, finito, moot. It's no longer relevant because they've hung the plaque and you're suing to hang the plaque.
Yeah.
And your lawyer, Ballou, right? Brendan Ballou?
Brendan Ballou, yeah.
He responded in a 3-page briefing to the judge when the judge asked for one, saying, no, it's not over. But thanks for hanging the plaque, but it's not compliant with the law. First of all, it needs to be on the western front of the Capitol, meaning outside, so the public can see it, so people can visit it, take pictures of it, scan that QR code to get all the officers' names, because the plaque just lists the agencies that the officers work for. Another reason that the Department of Justice lawyers argued that the plaque shouldn't be hung is because it's not in compliance with the law, which is BS. But that place where it's hung right now is not open to the public. Ballou said something to the effect of like, look, the plaque is to honor. It's not just failing to follow the letter of the law. It's failing to follow the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
The plaque is supposed to honor these police officers who protect the Capitol on January 6th. You can't really honor people by hanging a plaque where no one can see it.
Honoring it in private, right? So yes, you're 100% right. And listen, I get the symbolism of why it was placed in the location that it was, or it is. I understand that symbolism. For those that don't know, it is right inside of the tunnel, if you will. I'm using air quotes when I say that because we don't really call it that. But it's inside the tunnel where Daniel Hodges was actually squished and pinned in between the doors when he was brutally assaulted on that day. And that's where some of the most violent fighting took place that day. So I understand the symbolism. And also, every president since inauguration started at the Capitol on the West Front, I think that was Ronald Reagan that started it. And I think the story behind it, or the made up tale that interns like to tell, is Ronald Reagan was the first president to be inaugurated on the West Front because he wanted to face California and like face his home state where he was from. But, I think it was because the sizes of the crowds grew, not necessarily California. But anyway, so all the presidents have to walk past that plaque. And it's the symbolism of the peaceful transfer of power that should exist, I guess. But also, AG, this morning, as we're recording this on Monday, this morning, I got a phone call from somebody, and I'm going to make a big deal out of this, and I want you all too. Officer Jeffrey Smith, who died after January 6th, his widow and I have become very good friends. Erin Smith, she actually has lawsuits against. She's been taking this fight head on. But she told me, she flagged for me this morning, I didn't even know, that through the QR code where all the officers' names are listed, his name is not listed under the QR code. And I found that out this morning. She immediately reached out to Leader Jeffrey's office, and, we're going to see whatever we can do. But I'm going to make a big stink out of this, create a post about it a little later, probably by the time you all hear it. But we need to make sure that is corrected, especially because his death was ruled an in-the-line death. After January
in the line
6th.
of duty. So
in the line of duty death, yeah.
Now, is it the architect of the Capitol that maintains that list that's connected to the QR code?
Yeah, that's my understanding. The website is aoc.gov. AOC means Architect of the Capitol, not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So yes, I am on the face. I just pray that it is an oversight. It's just like a mishap because it's hundreds and thousands of names on there. So hopefully that's just a miss. But I didn't know it. But we are going to push to make sure that is rectified immediately.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Are you going to do that outside the lawsuit?
Yeah. Because I don't want to, yes, that's going to be separate of the lawsuit because I think that's just something that can be fixed immediately with just a simple addition of a name. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let us know how that goes. Thanks for breaking that news. All right, everybody. We've got a ton of news to get to today.
Yes,
There's a lot going on in Congress. I think finally maybe Congress is, starting to pick up on the fact that we want them to do more stuff, and that we're upset that they are a co-equal branch of government and that they should act like it. And it seems like they're starting, or, they're picking up the pace. They've started, they've done stuff, but like they're starting to pick up the pace. We're going to talk about that, but we're going to take a quick break first. So stick around. We'll be right back. DeleteMe makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. As someone with an active online presence, privacy is not something I can afford to treat casually. The internet makes it far too easy for personal information to get copied, reposted, and sold, often without your permission and without your knowledge. And with this new news that the Department of Government Efficiency took all of our Social Security information out on a thumb drive to give to a private company, which is being investigated, we really need to take care of our online privacy. Data brokers turn all your information into a business. You become a product, and your private details can wind up in the hands of strangers. That can lead to phishing, scams, harassment, stalking, doxing, identity theft. And it's one more reminder that privacy is not just about convenience, it's about safety. So what gets me is how much these sites can collect on you. It's not only your name and phone number, it can be your address, contact details, Social Security related information, records tied to family members and their information. And that creates a level of exposure that most people never knowingly agreed to. And once it's out there, trying to clean it up on your own is overwhelming. It can take hours to track down all that information and hours more to get people to remove it. And then it keeps popping up again. And that's what I love about DeleteMe. It's not a one and done. It continually monitors the internet for your information and removes it when it pops back up. So for listeners who care about security, online safety, or just not being so easy to track down, that matters. And DeleteMe is the answer. They've also been named the New York Times Wirecutter's top pick for data removal services, which gives me even more confidence in recommending it. So take control of your data, keep your private life private by signing up for DeleteMe. Now at a special discount for listeners, get 20% off your DeleteMe plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/cleanup and use promo code cleanup at checkout. Again, the only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/cleanup and enter code cleanup at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/cleanup, code cleanup. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, everybody. All right. Welcome back. Okay. Now, our friend, Scott McFarland, my personal friend, Scott McFarland, who just left CBS News to go independent. Shout out to independent journalists over on Substack. Make sure you subscribe. Please check out Scott McFarland over on Substack. He has the following exclusive. The Justice Department will receive a recommendation later today to conduct an investigation into whether former, I love saying former, even though Mark Wayne isn't going to be better, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem committed perjury in her testimony to Congress earlier this month.
Narrator, she did. The vice chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee will ask the Attorney General, Pamela Joe, to review whether Noem knowingly made false statements during her hearings conducted by the panels 2 weeks ago. The recommendation for a criminal investigation will cite at least 4 statements, made by Noem, including her response to questions about a controversial taxpayer-funded $220 million ad campaign, which prominently featured Kristi Noem. The proposal, which will be directed to Pam Bondi, will also recommend a probe of Noem's statements about the conditions of U.S. immigrant detention facilities, the Trump administration's detention of U.S. citizens, and the Department of Homeland Security's alleged defiance of federal court orders. The recommendation will be signed by Senator Dick Durbin, the Illinois Democrat, who has the ranking position on the Senate Judiciary, and Jamie Raskin. He's the Maryland Democrat, who's the ranking member on the House Judiciary.
Yeah, the referral to the Justice Department from committee Democrats is expected to argue Noem's testimony on March 3rd and 4th included statements that appear to violate criminal statutes prohibiting perjury and knowingly making false statements to Congress. Any claim that Secretary Noem committed perjury is categorically false, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson told me over the weekend in response to the questions about Democratic criticism of her testimony.
This is making me think of, did you see her press conference on Friday after Judge Boasberg threw out Jerome Powell subpoenas? They wanted to subpoena Jerome Powell. She wanted to investigate Jerome Powell for lying to Congress. And she was really, really mad about the judge. That's not how the system works. And she was talking
that's
about
that's a pretty good impersonation right there.
she's talking. I need to get a brown wig so I can do Kristi Noem. Or excuse me, Judge
Janine.
And she was like, we shouldn't, this isn't how the justice system works. We should get to investigate. I bring all the crimes. That's, because somebody was like, hey, you lose a lot. And she's like, look, I don't care about a no bill or not guilty. I think
that was Ryan Riley that asked that question.
I know it was.
Yeah.
And she's going through this thing like, the judge shouldn't tell us we can't investigate. I want to investigate all the crimes in DC. Really? Well, you should probably investigate this one because it's a slam dunk and you might win it.
Yeah. Get that percentage up, that winning percentage up, right?
Winning percentage up from the low 70s after it was 99.9 for 10 years. Like, oh my God.
I mean, Shaquille O'Neal shoot better free throws than they win cases.
But this is what I first thought of when I thought like, oh, the Department of Justice will probably not take this case because, they're friends of Kristi Noem. But Jeanine Pirro just had a meltdown saying, I take every case. I'll investigate it. I should get to look at it. Well, let's see. Let's see if she picks it up.
All right, put your money where your mouth is.
Get the W. Take the W. You'll win this one. Yeah, it's Kristi Noem, but
you'll win.
The recommendation for the probe, this is back to Scott McFarland's story. The recommendation is expected to include transcripts of Noem's answers about the advertising campaign. Senator John Kennedy, Foghorn Leghorn, I call him, Louisiana Republican, asked Noem on March 3rd if Trump was aware of the plans for the advertisements. And Noem said yes. The Judiciary Committee Democrats are going to cite a Trump interview from just a couple days after she said that, in which Trump said, I never knew anything about it. I don't know anything. The Judiciary, get him under oath, right? Well, if we take him at his word, you're lying, Kristi Noem. Now, the Judiciary Committee Democrats also will cite Noem's testimony about the bidding process for the advertising. Their recommendation will excerpt Noem's statements to Senator Peter Welch, a Vermont Democrat, that no political appointees were part of the process. That recommendation will say, quote, new public reporting, however, indicates that those statements may have been false. It has been reported that not only did Secretary Noem handpick the 4 companies for the ad campaign, but procurement records show the ad work was awarded using other than full and open competition, meaning no bids.
Mm.
And the 4 companies were politically connected to Noem and her allies.
Wow. The Democrats will also seek a probe of Noem's statements in which she argued the department has been meeting federal standards for detention of detainees. The recommendation to the Justice Department will say ICE internal audits have documented significant failures to meet medical care standards. The Democrats' recommendation is not expected to be well received or acted upon by the Trump administration at the Department of Justice. The agency is not bound by the recommendation to actually launch a criminal probe.
But I'm going to bring every crime, every crime to the federal grand jury. Jamie Raskin, former member of the House Select Committee on January 6th, on the January 6th attack, previously joined that panel's recommendation for a criminal prosecution of Trump in 2022 for conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election when the panel voted to make the criminal referral. Though the vote was largely symbolic, the Justice Department later appointed a special counsel to investigate Trump. The special counsel charged Trump with conspiracy in August of 2023 in a case that was dropped after Trump won re-election.
Yeah, in her Senate testimony, Noem argued that her agency had secured a series of accomplishments. She testified, thanks to President Trump's leadership and the hard work of the men and women of DHS, our department has delivered historic results and made our communities safer. Her opening testimony to the Senate committee did not specify the advertising campaign, detention facility, conditions, or her agency's adherence to court orders. The statements under scrutiny by the committee Democrats were made by Noem in response to questions from senators, including those raised by Senator Kennedy about the ads.
Yeah, Republican Senator Kennedy. Within days of her congressional testimony, Noem was fired. Scott says reassigned.
Fired, Scott.
by Trump to serve as a special envoy, the shield of the Americas, whatever that is, and moved out of her cabinet position with the Department of Homeland Security. Trump has nominated Marquayne Mullen. I call him Marquayne, an Oklahoma Republican, to succeed Noem. Now, after Trump's announcement, Noem said, "We've made historic accomplishments at the Department of Homeland Security to make America safe again. We delivered the most secure border in American history. 3 million illegal aliens have left the United States, and we've located 145,000 children. FEMA delivered disaster relief at a 100% faster rate." What? "We ushered in the golden age of travel." Huh? "We saved the American taxpayer $13 billion and revitalized the U.S. Coast Guard." What?
What? Where? Like, where? That's perjury his damn self, because you just lying your ass off, you know?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So
what is up with this golden age shit, by the way? Like, everything is the golden age of this. That's what?
Maybe is that what they used to say about the Holy Roman Empire? Because like they're really attached to the Roman
golden
thing.
age. I'm wondering, where did that all the way date back from? If y'all know, please share in the comments. Where does this golden age of everything stem from? I mean, we know Donald Trump is obsessed with gold, or it's probably fake. Like, that's one of the things he did in the Oval Office. It looks like, King Tut's tomb in there, but fake gold though. Like, what's going on?
It originated in Greek mythology.
The
best and first era of humanity. The term now metaphorically describes a time of supreme artistic, intellectual, or economic flourishing for a civilization.
Jeez, it's no way Trump studied Greek mythology and he knew that. Like, who told him that?
There's also no way we have supreme artistic, intellectual, or economic flourishing.
Zero.
See the Kennedy Center. See shutting down of all science. See the economy, for example.
Hell, see the damn bathroom at Mar-a-Lago where he stashed those documents that he stole. That bathroom, it wasn't no golden age there.
Maybe he thinks literally when stuff is gold, it's a golden age.
It's the golden age, because, my God.
Just like he thinks like asylum seekers come from insane asylums. And Visa card holders get actual credit cards. Like, he thinks these things are real. So maybe he thinks if I just put gold stuff in the Oval Office, it's a golden age.
They get 2% cash back. No, that's not how this works, dude.
All right. We've got more news to get to. More congressional investigations, actually.
Yeah.
Which, again, and we'll talk about this a little more after the break, but these congressional investigations kicked off by these Democrats are pretty symbolic. There's not much else we can do because we don't hold the majority. But when we do, we get subpoena power, we get the gavel, we can have committees, the special panels, like perhaps to investigate the war in Iran, the illegal war in Iran, what happened like leading up to that, the discussions about, like we can really actually start to have those types of hearings because we're blocked, because we're in the minority right now,
I think it's also good, though, too, because it helps with these hearings, like you say, even though symbolic, to help shape the messaging.
It's a dry run, right? It's a trial balloon dry run, shapes the messaging. Yeah. I mean, we've lost 13 service members in this war. I mean, talk about Benghazi on steroids.
They were more upset with Charlie Kirk's death than these 13 servicemen and women.
Yeah. Although they used both to fundraise in emails. But all right. Again, like I said, more congressional investigations, but quick break first. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Next up, like I said, more MOAR congressional investigations. This is from the Post. Congressional Democrats are opening a probe into millions of dollars that private companies pledged to Trump and his planned presidential library, asking what happened to the money after the original fund was dissolved last year. Senators Elizabeth Warren, one of my heroes, Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, and Rep. Melanie Stansbury from New Mexico wrote Monday to the leaders of ABC, Meta, Paramount, and Twitter, requesting information about the terms of their agreements and the status of the funds they pledged to hand over to the president's representatives. The letters were shared with the Washington Post. Basically, let's prove that these weren't bribes.
Yeah. The four companies each committed millions of dollars to the project through legal settlements with Trump in the months after the 2024 election, seeking to resolve claims that they had harmed him, oh, poor baby, by restricting his access to social media or defaming him in their coverage. The commitments totaled at least $63 million, according to company statements and media reports.
Now, that's alleged defaming him. I'm not sure why the Washington Post wants to allege everything else except that he was defamed in their coverage. But Trump, the Presidential Library Fund, Inc., it's called the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Fund, Inc., which was set to receive at least some of this settlement funding, was administratively dissolved in September by Florida officials after it did not submit mandatory annual reports. 3 months later, Jacob Roth, the lawyer who originally incorporated the fund, filed articles of dissolution. That's according to Open Secrets, which they reported last year. Quote, now it's unclear where the money has gone, exacerbating concerns about corruption that were apparent at the time of the settlement. That's what the lawmakers wrote.
Wow, this is wild. Yeah, a second nonprofit, the Donald J. Trump Presidential Library Foundation, Incorporated, was created last year and reported in December that it received $50 million in contributions, but has yet to confirm publicly that it took possession of the settlements. Federal rules do not require presidential library nonprofits to disclose their donations, and the organization did not respond to questions submitted through its website or sent to a press contact, James D. Kiley, a lawyer listed as trustee of the foundation. And also, they did not respond to questions about the source of funds. Can you imagine if this was the Obama Presidential Library?
Right.
Can you imagine?
Right. Now, presidents typically set up post-presidential libraries that are used to house their records and archives. The organizations also serve as highly curated museums, touting the president's record and offering their interpretation of events that unfolded during their tenures, and they're funded by private donations. The lack of federal disclosure requirements has drawn scrutiny because, well, for the first time under Trump, because donors, some of whom may have interests affected by White House policy, can make substantial contributions without public visibility.
Wow. Trump has said that he plans to use his planned Miami-based library to take possession of a Boeing 747-8 aircraft given by Qatar and valued at $400 million, among other gifts. The president's allies have also worked to acquire prized real estate for the site. Warren, Blumenthal, and Stansberry. I love Melanie Stansberry, by the way. She's a rising star. She's great. Last year were among several dozen Democrats who sponsored bicameral legislation intended to create new limits on fundraising for post-presidential libraries, saying that Trump was potentially flouting ethical safeguards on the presidency by accepting gifts from private companies and foreign governments. That legislation has remained stalled in both chambers. I wonder why.
Yeah, that's weird. Now, the Democrats' probe is also a preview of how they'll likely scrutinize Trump if they retake one or both chambers of Congress this fall, with liberals vowing to amp up their investigations of the president's dealings with private companies. Publicly identified donors to Trump's planned White House ballroom project and other initiatives, such as Amazon, Google, and Lockheed Martin, collectively have billions of dollars in contracts before the administration. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. So, again, like I said, these investigations will certainly ramp up, and we'll have a lot more power to conduct them when we flip one or both of the chambers of Congress.
That's one of the things that I'm running on, HE. Listen, we all agree that, affordability is top of mind.
Affordability and accountability.
Affordability and accountability. Listen, everybody wants to move on from Donald Trump. I agree 100%, but we are not, and we can't move on without getting accountability, because that's just, in my opinion, moving on without any type of consequences or accountability. It just continues to normalize that type of behavior. And then the precedent is already set for the next person to come and do it 50 years, hell, even 10 years later, the next person to come and do it. Well, Donald did it and we got away with it. So that's one of the things that I am running on, because I know people are craving accountability. It's not just me.
Yeah. And we flip Congress, we can start writing bills that curtail this kind of corruption. Just for so long, we've been like, nobody's going to take bribes for a presidential library thing. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah, they do. And Trump has shown us exactly where we've got to plug these holes. Yeah. And I think that when Congress flips, and then if we can get a Democrat in the White House next time, we'll be able to make those laws. Like after Watergate, a bunch of laws were put into effect, which are being ignored these days.
And trampled on.
Yep. All right. Next up from The Guardian. The CEOs of major U.S. airlines are urging Congress to move quickly to end the 29-day partial government shutdown that has forced 50,000 airport security officers to work without pay, warning it could further disrupt U.S. air travel. This happened last time. Yeah. Absences by Transportation Secretary Administration officers, TSA officers, had already disrupted travel at some major airports in the previous week, raising alarms as the busy spring break travel season continues.
Yeah, too many travelers are having to wait in extraordinarily long and painfully slow lines at checkpoints, wrote the CEO of American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, JetBlue, Alaska, and others in an open letter to Congress. They added, first, leaders should immediately come together to reach an agreement to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Then they need to act so this problem never happens again. Wow, that is... what a novel idea.
Yeah, something the CEOs failed to mention, though, is that the Democrats voted for an amendment to fund TSA and FEMA and the Coast Guard and CISA, and the Republicans voted no.
I'm glad you brought that up, AG, because absolutely, you're right.
They voted. They were like, we're not going to give you any additional funding for Customs, Border Protection, and ICE, but here's an amendment to fund TSA, to pay our TSA workers. And Republicans said, nope.
No, thank you.
Last fall, a 43-day government shutdown led to widespread flight disruptions, and the FAA ordered a 10% flight cut at major airports. Quote, once again, air travel is the political football amid another government shutdown, the CEOs wrote. Yeah, which is, it's called a pain point, ladies and gentlemen. It's the point, it's the purpose of this shutdown. Now, the group of airline executives, which also includes senior executives at cargo carriers, FedEx, UPS, Atlas, they called for legislation to ensure during future government shutdowns, all critical government aviation personnel are paid. All right, cool. Sounds good. Maybe you could take some of that $130 billion set aside for ICE and CBP in the big ugly bill and pay your people. I mean, I know that's not what Congress appropriated it for, but this administration doesn't give a shit what Congress appropriated for what. So come on, you got money. Now, senators from both parties failed on Thursday in competing efforts to fund the TSA, which said last week that more than 300 officers have quit since the shutdown began. See?
Well, yeah, the Homeland Security Department's funding lapsed on February 13th after Congress failed to reach a deal on immigration enforcement, ICE, reforms demanded by Democrats. They made those calls after federal immigration agents fatally shot two 37-year-old citizens in January, Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty. Mm-hmm. Man, we can never forget that, man. That was just on a side note real quick. Alex Pretty, when I watched that shooting, that's what forced me off the couch and said, I'm running for Congress, watching that video. But back to the story, airlines are expecting a record-breaking spring travel period with 171 million passengers expected to fly, up 4% from the same 2-month period in 2025.
Yeah, earlier in March, some airports like Houston Hobby and New Orleans reported security lines exceeding 2 hours or 3 hours, and TSA absences rose. The Newark airport on Saturday said it was experiencing more delays than normal. Quote, Americans who live in your districts and home states are tired of long lines at airports, travel delays, and flight cancellations caused by shutdown after shutdown. You know what we're also sick of? You fucking shooting people in the street. That's also what we're sick of. Some airports have closed some security checkpoints, and others are working to raise money to help TSA workers buy food or other essentials as they go without pay. Just like, look, the Democrats said, we'll vote to fund TSA, FEMA, CISA, Coast Guard. And the Republicans, no. They said, nope. This is on the Republicans.
Yeah. It totally is.
We have one more story coming up. This is about more Congress stuff. Because they're about to open debate on the bigoted and harmful SAVE Act in the Senate. So we'll talk about that right after. Yeah, it's a mess. We'll talk about that after this break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay, we got one more story to cover, and it comes from Politico. All right, now John Thune is preparing to rip off the Band-Aid, starting with a procedural vote. As soon as Tuesday, the Senate Majority Leader will kick off what could be 2 weeks of debate on the elections overhaul known as the Save America Act.
Yeah, elections overhaul and anti-trans bill. The bill is likely doomed thanks to bipartisan opposition and the Republican conference's desire to protect the filibuster. With Save's fate all but sealed, the coming days will put Republicans to the test as they at least try to pass what Trump says should be their number one priority. And this is interesting, Harry, right? Because Senator John Cornyn, who was just thrown into a expensive runoff with Paxton down in Texas for the Senate seat, running against James Tallarico down there. He's been anti-filibuster, killing the filibuster. He's been against it for a really long time, especially when Democrats wanted to pass their Voting Rights Act. Right. He was like, well, we can't.
Voting Rights Act, codifying Roe v. Wade, gun control. There's a lot of things that they didn't want.
Yeah. So he's been really, really against it. And now all of a sudden that he needs Trump's endorsement because Trump's dangling that endorsement over the heads of Paxton and Cornyn. But he's going to end up endorsing Cornyn because they don't want Paxton to run against Tallarico because Paxton has a bigger chance of losing. Yeah. But Trump's going to dangle that endorsement to get Cornyn to do what he wants. And sure enough, he's flipped on the filibuster saying, well, I've changed my mind. Maybe we need to. And the reason is because this is their last chance. This is last chance saloon to cheat and make it harder to vote for Democrats in the upcoming midterms where they get their asses handed to them. They desperately do not want to flip either chamber of Congress. At all. And so, they'll do other stuff. They'll muck up the lines. They'll close polling places. They'll pull drop-off locations.
To put ice out there.
Yeah, whatever it is. They'll do stuff. But, they're so desperate because, if you think about it, if they kill the filibuster and we flip the Senate.
Oh, it's Christmas. It's Christmas.
Right? Trump will still be president. He won't sign anything. But, if it's gone and we can hold the Senate and the House, holy shit, the Senate specifically, because that's where the filibuster matters. Yep. They don't have that rule in the House. They'll be fucked. But they are banking on the SAVE Act disenfranchising enough voters that we won't flip the Senate if it passes. That's what the SAVE Act does, right? Is it disenfranchises your votes. Now, with Save's fate all but sealed, the coming days will put Republicans to the test, as I said. Adding to the chaos, some of the bill's most outspoken champions in the House GOP are warning that a failed attempt won't be enough to keep them satisfied and that they're ready to block any Senate legislation outside of DHS funding.
Wow. Thune will kick things off as soon as Tuesday with a vote that requires only a simple majority to open debate. That's 51 votes. At least one Republican, Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, is planning to oppose the move, but Thune will likely have the votes to proceed. Potential opponents of the bill know it will ultimately be blocked when the Senate moves to end debate, something that will require 60 votes. Tillis told Politico, there's no path for success. I was a no on the talking filibuster path, and this was going to produce the same result, he said.
Now, other Republicans to watch, Senators Mitch McConnell and Lisa Murkowski. Murkowski last week declined to say how she was going to vote, and she said she needed more clarity on the mechanics of the debate. Really, lady, let me tell you what happened. Do you not know? I know. I'm not a senator. Come on. I need more time to think about it. Now, look for the possibility of further Republican divisions as Republicans prepare amendment votes to expand the bill to include additions called for by Trump, changes that require 60 votes to be approved. The underlying bill would create new citizenship and ID requirements for voting, and the president wants to add provisions that prohibit gender-affirming surgery for children and ban transgender women from participating in women's sports and restrict mail-in voting. He hates mail-in voting, even though a lot of his voters vote by mail, including himself.
Yeah. Okay. So look for this. Look for late nights as well, as Republicans and Democrats keep senators on or near the floor to fend off procedural hijinks on both sides. We don't know what Thune's going to do yet, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer told Reporters Sunday, but we have prepared for every eventuality, and that includes if they do amendments. Democrats expect to force a vote on at least one Iran war powers resolution this week. A person granted anonymity to discuss the plan, told Politico. Senators foresee the whole SAVE drama taking 7 to 10 days, if not longer. Now, that's so interesting, AG. So one thing I have a question for you as I was, reading up on this, voting things and states control elections, right? Is this one of these things that you see going to the Supreme Court? Kind of like when Roe was overturned and it said, give it back to the states. Since states are already in control of this, isn't this like the federal government trying to make it, to put their weight on what states do? Do you see this going to the Supreme Court?
Well, first of all, it would have to pass, and somebody would have to sue in order for it, and then it would have to go to district, and then the circuit, and then the Supreme Court. But yes, and we have to remember there are federal election laws. We do have federal election laws. Like, for example, you can't take foreign donations.
Yeah.
It's one
you mean like a jet from Qatar?
Yeah. You can't take foreign campaign donations, or, there's all sorts of federal election law out there managed by the Federal Election Commission. And Trump will try to argue that this is another one of those federal election laws to protect our elections. We have to have proof of citizenship. We have to have this. We can't let trans women play sports on women's teams. Like, I don't know how that has to do with elections, but anyway, that's just a bigoted, that's like a little bait to get people to vote for it. You know what I mean? To get people to support it. But yeah, I mean, somebody would sue and the Supreme Court would decide whether or not it is constitutional for them to require proof of citizenship to vote. How this Supreme Court, if this were 10 years ago, I'd be like, that won't ever make it past the Supreme Court.
Yeah, this Supreme Court gives you pause, right?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't think, I was like, they're not going to grant the president immunity. That goes against everything our founding fathers. Yeah, well, hello. They're not going to overturn Roe. Actually, we are going to overturn Roe, but they just don't care about anything like that. They care about giving the executive more power. So, and then he could say when he interferes in elections that he was just doing his job, taking care to ensure the laws were faithfully executed. It's that whole, and he'll throw a national security thing in there. It's for national security, which you can't question me about because I am the president, Article 2. So that's, I think, where it would head, again, without me knowing, being able to predict what this particular Supreme Court would do. But I don't think it's going to pass. I think it's doomed. But I still, every day, Harry, I still call my senators and tell them, and I also call other people senators, but they don't listen to me. Yeah,
call everybody senator.
I know my senators aren't going to vote for this shit, but especially if you're in a state that has Republican senators, if you're in Alaska, call Murkowski. If you're in Kentucky, call Mitch McConnell. Tell him, hey, I'm one of your constituents. Please don't pass this SAVE Act. Just stay on them. Download that 5 Calls app and keep pushing not to pass this thing. I don't think it'll make it, but our voices help with that.
Absolutely. We can always do something, y'all. And like I said, especially with the election season coming up and everybody asking for money and everybody asking for your vote, like, you could just make some phone calls if that's something that you can do. Write a postcard. We got to do something. And no action is too small, especially when that action is joined or done by several hundreds and thousands of people across the country. So, hell, we just saw in, where was that election down in Florida? Was it the AG? One vote flipped the mayor seat?
It ended up being 5. It was down to 1 after a recount, and then he was up by 6 and then up by 1, and then he eventually won by 5. But yeah.
Yeah, we hear a lot of times, my vote doesn't matter. And you know what? Most of the time, that might be true. And obviously, your vote always matters. Always go vote. But generally speaking, it's not going to come down to one person. Well, look, it did with 5 people. So do your action. It's never too small. It's always enough. And just do whatever you can.
Yeah. And always remember, if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't spend billions of dollars to try to take it away from you. And also, like Harry, you said, we're in the primary season right now. Go to campaign events. Go to campaign events hosted by candidates who are wanting your vote and ask them, will you protect the LGBTQ plus community? Will you protect our transgender youth? Will you vote against the SAVE Act? Will you vote for expanding voting rights? Make sure that they are going to do what you want them to do. You can find out a lot about your candidates by going to those events, by going to those campaign events and just asking them.
Even outside of just policy, AG, I've learned that, some of these people just at campaign events. You just find out what type of people they are.
Yeah.
Are they kind? Are they friendly? Are they nice? Are they jerks? Are they, you could find out just the type of person that they are. I mean, I feel like everybody, when they have the opportunity to write their positions, you don't do it overnight. Hell, I've been working on my positions on my website for the last month just to get it up. By the way, that should be up and coming in the next week or so. But everybody can, come up with the correct thing to say when you got a chance to write it down, but just see how they are, what type of people they are. So get out there, go to those events.
Yeah. Do they tip wait staff? Do they?
That's a good one. How do you treat that?
Do they return the shopping cart? Are they nice when they talk to you, or do they
Yep.
dismiss you? Do they act like they're better than you? There's a lot of things you can pick up by going to these live events. That's my big
sure
recommendation. Calling your reps and calling people. That's really, really important. But the ones who want your vote, go out and ask them questions, man.
Yep. Sure is.
And then you pick the best one. And then you still vote for whichever Democrat wins.
Yes. Yeah. That's what the primary's for. Vote for your favorite, and then we got to elect Democrats.
Sometimes your favorite doesn't win, man. My favorite didn't win in 2016. My favorite didn't win in 2020. But I still voted for the Democrat. I'm one of those people, though. I am what they call a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I have never once voted for anyone but a Democrat.
Yep.
So
because the choice is clear between the two parties.
I'm just a staunch effing Democrat, and with the party, I keep moving left. Right? I consider myself a progressive Democrat. I think Medicare for all doesn't go far enough. I want fully funded direct government health care. Like I don't even want third-party private doctors.
We deserve
involved,
it. We deserve
right?
it.
I'm like, I want that. Now I understand ACA and M4A, Medicare for All, are steps on the way to that. I like universal basic income. I'm for reparations. I'm a pretty progressive Democrat. But the way that I've always operated is you got to elect Democrats and then push them to the left, because you can't push a Republican anywhere.
Nowhere. I was going to make a joke, but nope, maybe that's not too congressional of me.
You can't figuratively push a Republican
I'll let AG
anywhere.
stick to the jokes.
I remember we went to, it was a long time ago, and it was that restaurant that serves the really big portions, Claim Jumper. And they have a night where cops will come in and serve your food for you. And it's called to earn money for the station or whatever. And it's called Tip a Cop. And I just think of cow tipping, like you just walk up to a cop and just push him over in a field. It didn't make any sense.
That is kind of hilarious.
All right, everybody. Sorry. Getting off topic here.
Good little rant right there.
Thanks, man. Tip a cop. We'll go back. To it next week. But we also have a bonus episode for patrons this weekend, and we'll see you then. Hey, Harry, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here today?
No, just appreciate all of y'all, all of your support. Go check out my website, harrydunn4FORMD.com, and donate if you can.
Sick. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. I'm Allison Gill.
Harry Dunn. Thanks, y'all.
Cleanup on Aisle 45 is written, researched, and produced by Allison Gill, with editing by Molly Hockey. Our art and logo design are by Joelle Reeder and Moxie Design Studios, and our music is composed and performed by Adam Orr. Cleanup on Aisle 45 is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, visit mswmedia.com. MSW Media.